Alright, I guess it's time to talk about Windows Recall because, man oh man, there is just an absolute ton of controversy about this thing, and it kind of links into a fairly interesting news story that kind of leaves an open door to this conversation. I think it'll be fun to talk about. If you don't know what I'm referring to when I say Windows Recall, by the way, is it Windows Recall or Windows Recall? Is this let's go defense or let's go defense? I have no idea. I'm going to go with recall for whatever reason. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it is a new feature that is launching on AI-powered Windows devices that allows you to rewind the clock. It's basically keeping tabs on everything that you're doing in such a manner that at any point you can sort of search and find what you were doing earlier, whether that's a file or a website you were on or whatever it might be. Anything that was on the screen of your computer effectively becomes searchable and logged so that you can go back to where you were earlier. It is a universal search of everything you've done on your computer. Now, you can immediately understand why there were pretty big security concerns there, right? Because basically how this works is every few seconds, Windows is taking a screenshot and then it's using OCR, optical character recognition, to log what's on the screen, and then that makes it searchable. Okay, so that means, yes, it's screenshotting your screen every, 2 or 3 seconds or something like that. So yeah, obviously there are some security concerns there. Now, Microsoft immediately said, look, all of this is being done locally, okay? That's why this is only on AI-powered PCs, because they have the NPU processing power to pull this sort of thing off without dragging your computer down, and it's done locally. All this OCR stuff, it's all stored on your device. It's not sent to a cloud or anything like that. And because of that, they're claiming that it is relatively safe and secure. We have a problem, Houston. I don't think that's how you're supposed to say that. The Verge. Windows AI feature that screenshots everything labeled a security disaster. A security researcher is concerned about Windows 11's new recall feature after testing. And this is, like I said, from The Verge. I'll put a full link to this, or a link to this full article in the description. If we scroll down here, this is someone, Kevin Beaumont. Microsoft told media outlets a hacker cannot exfiltrate Copilot Plus recall activity remotely. Reality. How do you think hackers will exfiltrate this plain text database of everything the user has viewed on their PC? Very easily. He says, I have it automated. And that is the scary part. This plain text database of everything the user has ever viewed on their PC. Let's read this. Every few seconds, screenshots are taken. These are automatically OCR'd by Azure AI running on your device, and it's written into a database in the user's folder. This database has a record of everything you've ever viewed on your PC in plain text. This is not encrypted in any way. Now, of course, you may have seen the news stories that Windows going forward is going to be basically forcing you to use BitLocker. This is their full drive encryption. But that doesn't really work for this, right? Because BitLocker is a thing. Let's say you have a laptop or a computer and somebody wants to get to your data and they physically have your computer and they take that hard drive out. It's encrypted. The only way they can get into it is if they log in as you. It's decrypted, and then you're able to access the files. That doesn't work here because you're logged in and then the data's there in a plain text file. All someone has to do is sort of hijack your computer remotely and they can just see all of these files. The database is stored locally on your PC, but it's accessible from the app data folder if you're an admin on a PC. So what this is doing, effectively, is it is distilling everything that you've done on your computer into one very, easy to search database. Now, I used to say years ago, this is sort of a tangent, but maybe you'll find it interesting, when it was sort of revealed that the NSA was perhaps logging all of our phone calls and text messages and so forth and so on, that when you have a database of everything that isn't easily searchable, you effectively have a database of nothing. Maybe you missed this, but when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, for instance, they actually had text messages from the perpetrators They captured them. But because there was no appropriate or effective way to search through this, they didn't know they had it until the event had happened. Then they had their search terms. Then they were able to find it. With something like this, it wouldn't be that difficult to come up with search terms. So I don't think you have that problem, right? You can just search for banking applications and things like that, bank websites, logins and things, and it's all going to be visible potentially to someone who's managed to grab this plain text database. Beaumont has exfiltrated his own recall database and created a website where you can upload a database and instantly search it. Quote, I am deliberately holding back technical details until Microsoft shipped the feature as I want to give them time to do something. And boy, oh boy, do they need to do something. This is not the state that this can possibly ship in. And frankly, given the security concerns coming into this feature, coming into this situation, people were immediately concerned. And now this is going around. I don't know that this feature, maybe I'm going too far. I don't think this feature, it might not be savable. There may be such low trust at this point that they may need to literally disable this and forget about it for a while and maybe try to come back to it later. I cannot imagine leaving this feature turned on unless they are able to truly show that they have done something to prevent. Look, it's in a plain text file. I mean, look at this. Yes, you can go in and disable certain URLs and certain apps, but it does not perform content moderation. So things like passwords, financial account numbers, all of that stuff will be in these snapshots. I cannot wrap my head around how on earth they thought they could ship it in the state that it is apparently they're prepared to ship it in without this being a colossal controversy. So that's where we are with Microsoft Recall. Now, I want to show you another article, though, just to kind of put a bookend on this. This is from PC World. Google is working on a recall-like feature for Chromebooks as well. Let's scroll down. So this is an interview with, let's see, where's the name here? John Solomon, Vice President at Google, responsible for Chrome OS. And he has a couple of interesting quotes here. So they're talking in context about that demo with the it wasn't the smart glasses, actually. I think it was the phone. They were showing it things and asking it questions, and then the lady said, "Where were my glasses?" And it had saw her glasses and said, "Oh, it was next to the red apple," and she went and she got it. So that's the context. Quote, I think there's a piece of it which is very relevant, which is this notion of having some kind of context and memory of what's been happening on the device. So think of something that's like maybe viewing your screen and then you walk away, you get distracted, you chat to someone at the water cooler, and you come back. You could have some kind of rewind function. You could have some kind of recorder function that would kind of bring you back to that. So I think that there is a crossover there. We're actually talking to that team about where the use case could be. But I think there's something there in terms of screen capture in a way that obviously doesn't feel creepy and feels like the user is in control. Now, personally, I understand why companies are being drawn to this like a moth to the flame. There is obvious use here. But him saying in a way that doesn't feel creepy and feels like the user is in control, I am highly skeptical of how that is going to be implemented. Microsoft is struggling with it, and let's be honest, lots of people do not trust Google, okay? There's a large mistrust of this company. So I genuinely do not know how that is possibly going to be implemented. He goes on to say, I'm not going to talk about recall, but I think the reason some people feel it's creepy is when it doesn't feel useful and doesn't feel like something that they initiated or that they got a clear benefit from. If the user says, let's say we're having a meeting and discussing complex topics, there's a benefit of running a recorder function if at the end of it, it can be useful for creating notes and the action items. But you as a user need to put that on and decide where you want to have that. Now that is absolutely true. But if it's something you have to constantly, oh, I forgot to turn on my memory, how useful is that going to be? There is a lot to dig in here, and a lot of it is hypothetical when it comes to this Google stuff. This is like they're experimenting at this moment, talking about what this feature could look like. But I want to hear from you guys. Is there any world where, whether it's Windows or Chrome OS, you would want to have some sort of always-on, taking screenshots of your screen, OCRing, logging your entire workflow, everything you're doing on your computer? How would that have to be implemented before you would be able to trust it and find it useful? Let me know in the comments down below, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.